All right, I believe that we are ready to get started. Today is March 10th, 2026, and I will call to order the Madison Common Council Executive Committee meeting. Staff could please call the roll.
President Vitiver?
Here.
Vice President Govindarajan? Here. Alder Ugair?
Here.
Alder Madison?
Here.
Alder Matthews?
Here.
Alder Lankella?
Here.
Alder Tischler?
Yep, I'm here.
And Alder Figueroa Cole?
Here.
You have quorum.
Fantastic. All right, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the February 10th CCEC meeting. Is there a motion on the minutes? Thank you. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote to approve the minutes of February 10th? Seeing none, those will be approved. I think John was the second. Next on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any registrants?
We have no registrants. I believe the staff in attendance accidentally registered. Otherwise, we have no registrants.
Excellent. We will move on to disclosures and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals? Seeing none, then the first item on our agenda is item 2, Legistar 91848, a substitute amending various sections of the Madison General Ordinances to correct inconsistencies and improper references to the Madison General Ordinances constituting a 2025 City Attorney Reviser's Ordinance. Can I have a motion on that item? Thank you. All right, are there any questions for staff on this? Seeing none. Any discussion? Alder Matthews.
Hi. I noticed for this one that there's one additional place where the name of the Community Resources Committee needs to be updated. I believe it's on page 3, but I can send that out if that's needed. But I just noticed that when I was reading the second, it was the substitute earlier today.
I'm sorry, Alder, on what page?
I believe it was page 3. It was talking about the CDBG funds, where they also partner with the Community Services Committee, but that Community Services Committee reference wasn't changed to Community Resources.
If we can,
I think it's at the bottom of the page.
if we can locate it, we can fix it tonight yet. I'm just not seeing where.
Yeah, I can share it in a minute. I'll definitely share where it's at.
Oh, is it, did you say the reference to Community Services Committee?
Yeah, it was where it's talking about how CDBG gives
Right.
out funds working also with the community.
I see that. Community Services. Yeah, so we can change that to Community Resources Committee.
Do we need to have a amendment
Yeah.
on the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Would someone like to make an amendment to change that? Alder Govindarajan. Go ahead.
It would be just a motion to amend subsection, well, section 3, I guess, of the ordinance. So in the second line, it would say Community Resources Committee rather than Community Services Committee.
So moved.
Fantastic. Any additional discussion on this item?
And thank you for the catch, Alder Matthews. we will have a position available for you in the city attorney's office.
Any additional discussion on this item? Is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of the amended version? Seeing none, that item will pass. Moving on to item 3, 92032, amending various subsections of section 35.56 of the Madison General Ordinances related to Transportation Commission to update composition, duties, and procedures. May I get a motion on this? Second. Thank you. Are there questions for staff? John. I am seeing no questions for staff. Is there any discussion? I am seeing no discussion. Is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of this item? Seeing none, we will record a unanimous vote in favor, and that item shall pass. Item 4, Legistar 92185, amending various sections of the Madison General Ordinances related to terms of alders on boards, commissions, and committees. May I get a motion on this item? Thank you. Are there questions for staff? This is primarily to align with our now 1 year. Every year there's an election of alders. Are there any questions for staff on this item? Any discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of this item? Seeing none, we will record a unanimous vote, and that item shall pass. I am wondering if folks would like to move item 9 up in the agenda so that we can sort of take care of all of these things. Alder Govindarajan.
Sorry, I actually do have one question on the item that we just passed, if that's okay.
Not really.
No worries.
We passed it. But we have staff here who are available to answer your questions. Okay, great. Item 9 was an addendum item, and so I'm just wondering if anybody would like to take that up at this time rather than waiting until the end, as it is sort of this similar nature of these other items. Okay, is there any objection to taking up item 9 next on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we will go to item 9, Legistar 92211, amending section 33.273D of the Madison General Ordinances related to the Deferred Compensation Committee. Are there questions for staff on this item? Seeing none, is there discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of this item? Yeah, it did. Wait, did it get moved? We moved it up, but sorry. Okay, I messed up. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, and then rewind all the other stuff I said. Here's the staff to ask questions of if anybody has questions for staff. There were no questions, but now that you're here. Okay, Alder Figueroa Cole, go ahead.
Can I just get a brief, somebody from staff, what this is about, please?
The Deferred Compensation Committee. Aaron literally just walked into the room, so. Wait, I have to.
Is that on?
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your time. So, as a function of the work that Common Council staff and other staff throughout the city are doing to ensure BCCs are properly organized, meeting their purpose and goals, we were all sort of instructed to go through the purpose and goals of our committees. Those that we staff, we have 3 in the Human Resources Department, the Personnel Board, the Employee and Labor Relations Committee, and the Deferred Compensation Committee. The Deferred Compensation Committee is a quasi-committee rather than a full actual committee. It is made up of entirely city employees. The purpose of that committee is to monitor the deferred compensation plans, to make decisions about fund lineup, to make decisions about emergency withdrawals, to make sure that the vendors that we have, Fidelity and Mission Square, are operating appropriately, making the best decisions for our employees. And that committee is, as a part of developing that work plan, we went through to make sure that we had reviewed what is stated as the in the ordinances as the purpose of the committee, the makeup of the committee, et cetera. We identified that it previously was staffed by a variety of individuals, including HR director, finance director, city treasurer, and just as a very, very minor edit, realized that when we pulled the finance department underneath, or I'm sorry, the treasurer's department underneath the finance department, we had not appropriately modified the committee language related to the members. And so as a committee, decided to, instead of designating it as the city treasurer, because technically Dave Schmidtke serves the function of the city treasurer and the finance director, that we would include it as the finance director and one other person to be named by the finance director. There's no intention to change the actual makeup. Craig Franklin leads the treasurer department under David Schmidtke, and will continue to serve on the deferred compensation committee, just as he always has. It's really just recognizing that when we did that, we merged the city treasurer with the finance director and consequently needed to include an extra member. So that was the purpose of the modification. Really very minor, and not actually changing anything like the makeup of the committee. But I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the work that your body does to make sure that the decisions being made about our committees, commissions, and boards are the right ones.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Any additional questions for staff? Any discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of this item? Seeing none, we will record a unanimous vote, and this item will pass. That will bring us back to item 5. I believe that Legistar 92256, research on changes to structure of council in fast-growing communities. I believe that Isaac is going to give us the presentation.
Evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen really quick. Is everyone able to see that all right? Can't see anyone, so
You got it
someone
now.
give me a perfect. All right, so good evening. At the last CCEC meeting on February 10th, there's a discussion about the possibilities of reducing the size of the Common Council and what that could look like. During that discussion, Alder Madison asked a question about what other municipalities experiencing sort of substantial growth have done to their government structures. And so since then, took a look at these fast-growing municipalities and put it together into this presentation. And so first, some background on what has prompted this discussion and how the city of Madison fits into this. As you all know, Madison and Dane County have been growing and are expected to continue to grow at relatively rapid rates. There are a few different estimates, such as the state of Wisconsin Department of Administration, which tends to have a bit more of a conservative estimate, and the Capital Area Regional Planning Committee's regional data group, which is shown below. As you can see, the population of Madison is expected to grow to 437,000 by 2050. This is about a 170,000 increase in these 30 years between 2020 and 2050. Additionally, there have been a few different attempts to change the structure of Madison's government, starting with the Task Force on Government Structure in 2019. There are recommendations of making the council full-time, reducing the size of it to 10, increasing alder pay, making the terms for 4 years, implementing term limits, and increasing leadership terms to 2 years. Since then, there have been a few referenda which either did or would have changed the structure of government. In 2023, voters approved staggering elections for the Common Council. However, in 2021, voters said that the Common Council should remain part-time and remain the same size. You can see kind of the voting splits on the right side of the screen there. In 2023, 83% said yes, there should be staggered elections, whereas remain the same received 70% of the vote, or no to transitioning to full-time council received 58% of the vote. And so when looking for municipalities that have changed their government structure during a period of rapid growth, we first sought to identify kind of which municipalities to look at in the first place. We utilized census data and looked at year-over-year growth, both by percent increase and numerical increase, to kind of get this starting point for this. Here's the list of the 10 largest percent increases in municipalities. As you can see, the vast majority of these are in the South. Texas and Florida make up a lot of this list. And then there's Alabama and North Carolina on there. There's one Midwestern city, which is Rosemont, Minnesota. The percent increases range from 30 at the top to about 10% at the bottom, all pretty substantial year-over-year increases. And then looking at the 10 largest numerical increases, some of the largest cities in the United States start to appear. The Texas and Florida still make up 4 of the top 10, showing that they both are experiencing large percent increases, but also numerical increases. Otherwise, here it's a bit spread out compared to the percent increases. Using these lists of cities undergoing these large population increases, we can start to get a picture of what other municipalities are doing when we dig into different proposals, referenda, etc., in their cities. And so, first, looking at changes made in the fast-growing cities by largest percent increases, there are a couple different examples. So in Fulshire, Texas, which underwent nearly 27% growth between 2023 and 2024, they redrew districts to account for this increased population in the year 2025, so last year, as the districts were suddenly really imbalanced. Furthermore, they staggered their council terms, similar to what we recently did. And then in Leesburg, Florida, they underwent an 18.5% population growth, and they changed their council from 3 single-member districts and 2 at-large districts to just 5 single-member districts. Ultimately, the number of elected officials on their council didn't change, but the areas in which they represented did. They did this in 2021, and when they were sort of explaining why they're proposing to do this and ultimately did, they said that it was in preparation for residential development that is expected to occur in the next few years. So they are doing this kind of expecting the growth to come. And then lastly, Anna, Texas, which underwent 14.6% growth, they opted to stagger their council terms just last year in 2025. Then looking at changes made in municipalities with large numerical population increases, we'll start with Los Angeles County, which is not a city, as the header says. That's why there's an asterisk there. But Los Angeles City was one of the largest numerical increases, which is obviously within Los Angeles County. And so in 2024, their voters approved Measure G, which did a number of things. They created a directly elected county executive, expanded the number of supervisors from 5 to 9, and created an ethics commission. These pretty large changes are all being implemented gradually. They're not all in effect as of yet. Then looking at Charlotte, North Carolina, there are discussions about changes to their structure, though nothing has really come of it yet. In 2023, their city council voted to further discuss changes. such as increasing term lengths to 4 years, adding an 8th district from the 7 that they have already, and staggering election terms. However, at the time, they decided to not officially put it to referendum, and it has since kind of stalled out. And lastly, Phoenix, Arizona went through relatively standard redistricting following the 2020 census, though their continued growth resulted in pretty significant differences between their old maps and new maps, enough that it was pretty relevant for this. And lastly, I wanted to highlight 2 more municipalities that underwent notable changes that I feel like fit into this discussion, even if they weren't in the list of rapidly growing municipalities. So the first is Portland, Oregon, where in 2022, voters approved ballot measure 26228, which replaced their commission form of government, created 4 geographic districts, increased the council size from 4 to 12, and created the role of city administrator. This was really a complete overhaul of what their government structure was. And their reasoning for these changes was due to the growth that the city had seen over the past 100 years. Portland isn't currently this sort of rapid growing city that we've been talking about. They've seen a slight population decrease over the past few years, in fact, though they have obviously grown a lot since their kind of commission form of government was initially implemented over 100 years ago. And then in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, in 2022, voters approved a referendum that reduced the size of the Common Council, one of the few that I found that did this. At the time, they had 8 districts with 2 representatives each, so 16 total representatives. And instead of these 16 representatives, they're shifting to having 12 districts with 1 elected official in each district. So going from 16 to 12. And so while Wauwatosa is kind of this growing city that we're talking about, maybe not at the same rate that we saw in that first table, they didn't necessarily use that as a justification for why they're moving from 16 to 12, though it is happening kind of at the same time. And so in all, kind of in looking at all of this, I figured I would mention that the most common approach to government structure in these growing municipalities is that there really was no change. They often opted to continue with the status quo, whatever that may look like in their municipality. Even in municipalities where there kind of were changes made, they're relatively minor, with perhaps the most common approach being the one that we've seen in Madison, which is staggering elections. I would also add that those are the ones that were kind of least frequently tied to population increases when asked to give a justification for it. Exceptions to these smaller changes would be Los Angeles County and Portland, where there are kind of these wholesale changes to their structure. And then even in Wauwatosa, where you saw a decrease in the size. But all in all, there hasn't been much of like an identifiable trend in how these municipalities approach their government structures as they're growing relatively rapidly. But there's a little bit of everything, whether it's staying the same, increasing, decreasing, these really large changes. So thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Alder Madison.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for pulling it together fairly quickly, because I think this was last month or a couple weeks ago. And I guess what I noted is just that it seems like the staggered terms is something that we have done to try to manage how we're growing. I guess my next question is somewhat unrelated to this, but just thinking about planning for the next census and what that might look like. So, but I'm not necessarily interested in having that conversation tonight, but that's where I'm thinking.
Sounds good. Let me know whenever you are.
Thank you, Isaac, for that.
Yeah.
Other questions? Alder Uguer.
Thank you, President Mitterer. I think the next thing that would be of interest looking at these, since you've already pulled them up and identified which ones have been growing quickly, potential future project would be to look at how they're staffed. You know, if we have, I'm particularly interested in some of those districts that have fairly large populations and been growing, but a smaller number of representatives that are handling the work. And I would be curious to know what that staffing looks like. In our discussion here, a month ago, and we saw a lot of opportunities, or a lot of advantages, I should say, to maintaining the status quo as to the number and so forth, and in part because of the change in workload we might see, the effect on budget if we were to supplement people with additional staffing. I think it would be helpful to all of us to kind of understand how you staff for those situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I don't know how many folks were with us when we had the contingent from Lexington visit, but I know I was surprised that they each had a staff member. Yeah. And I mean, they have an interesting construct because it's city county together. But we all kind of, at least I was going, wow, that's a lot of resources to help elected officials. So.
Just an afterthought. And it occurs to me that depending on what that staffing is for the directly, the older equivalents, whatever they may be called in those districts, that if they're not heavily staffed, then where do people who are trying to obtain services go? Just thinking about that 480,000 in 2050, we're going to have to change something.
For sure.
When that happens. Be good to plan for it. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Alder Lankella.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Isaac. That was a really good presentation. I really love the data. I just wanted to see if you could put, similar to what Alder Ugeri is asking, could you put it in a table with the population and including Madison also into that one table to see population and for each alder, each member, and compared to other cities to Madison, and see that one too. But yeah, I was really surprised to see big cities like Boston and everything still have less number of alders, and interesting to see their population, how much they are supporting versus what we are doing in Madison.
And then a corollary to that is, are they part-time as we are? Are they full-time?
Yeah, part-time versus full-time. Yeah, if you can put another flag there that says they're part-time or full-time, that will help.
Sure.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you.
Other questions? Alder Madison.
I just wanted, since Alder Ugeri brought it up, if maybe that could just be a next step for this presentation outside of what Alder Lankella brought up, but just to literally, not all 20 or so that were marked, but those top five, especially I'm interested in Minnesota. I can say that much since it seems like that's our closest neighbor on the list. But to see what kind of staffing model they use and what kind of, if there's a way to find out what kind of technology resources they might have access to as well would be helpful. So.
Great. Yeah, I can absolutely do that.
Thank
So
you.
what it sounds like is that we're asking for a strategic plan for how we are going to accommodate long-term growth between elected officials, staffing, and a technology help, and how we might plan for this.
Yeah, because I think he said we're expecting 170,000 on average increase by 2050.
Yeah. Right. That's the current prediction.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And we have the census coming up again in a few short years. So.
Yes, obviously actions that are happening outside of our control may influence those numbers and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, but I do think that's probably a step we really do need to think about is doing a true strategic plan.
And two, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm kind of turning to Karen because I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's staff prepare that. I don't know if we need a committee. So I'm not sure. But go ahead, Alder.
I was just going to say too, looking at their, so I know Milwaukee has a smaller number of alders and they're full-time and they each of them have a staff person, but they also, I'm not sure if it's the same person is sending out their communications, but they do a really good job of preparing communications to send out because I follow several of them. So also just looking at in their support model, what does it look like? Do they have specific communication staff folks, or is it sort of embedded in their staff position, I guess? So that would be helpful to know.
Good question. Alder Matthews. Hold on. Why can't I make?
Microphone. Oh, yours not.
Can you tried. I wonder if it's a side thing. All right, we got to get IT. All right, yeah, go ahead.
Yep. They're trying to silence us.
Okay, we need IT to help us with the
Okay.
side of the room. Go ahead.
Thank you, President. And I just wanted to also ask, but thank you, Isaac, for putting this together. If anyone could speak to kind of what Karen mentioned last time of cities that are similar to Madison with regards to like the kinds of constituent services and the amount that people are very involved. Because I do think that it might be interesting, even if they didn't fit the cutoff for rapidly growing enough, just to see, even from like a previous period of growth, if there are any other places out there like Madison, but right, I think just the numbers might not quite tell everything we need with the kinds of services people have been and access that people have been used to and encouraged to take advantage of for a very long time.
We're getting lots of good feedback. Thank you. Okay, Alder Govindarajan.
Thank you. Similar to what Alder Madison was saying, I think looking at Milwaukee is probably going to be what is most fruitful here, because I believe their council has 18 members full-time with staff, and or that might be their county board, and then their county board maybe has 15 people and they share their staff. And just working with a couple of them in the past before, I know they have very similar constituent services to us. They offer a lot of city services, obviously. And I think that's a place that we can take a lot of inspiration from in terms of figuring out logistically how did they get to where they're at right now. So that's all. I still think we should keep it at 20, though, for what it's worth. That's all. Thanks.
All right, Karen, go ahead.
So I can let you know a little bit of a plan that's formulating as y'all are discussing. I think that I would propose that we go ahead, our office let us give it a whirl. Isaac and I can get together and decide on some of the key metrics that you discussed and anything else that comes to us from the TFOGS discussion and other discussions that we've had. We tend to have a group of peer cities that we gravitate towards. We can start there. Inside Wisconsin, outside, because one thing that I have to say is, and I will be very curious to see what this all uncovers, because when I go to conferences, and everybody outside of Wisconsin is mystified by the large number of council members that Wisconsin communities have. So while we take it for granted as normal, many places don't. So I would be curious as well, how do they manage their volume? Is their volume very different from our volume? A lot of places have, and this is on a metric that we have to put in, a city administrator. And a lot of places have a 311 or something similar. So we'll think of things like that, for example. And I think then Isaac and I can do some interviews, meet with some folks in our corresponding offices to find out specifically from a council standpoint, a council office standpoint, because some places have robust mayor's offices, for example, that handle a lot of input, things like that. But I want to focus on council offices, supporting the council members. And also I wanted to let you know that because folks have been interested, there have been some conversations lately again about email. And I had also been going through some papers looking at the reports of some committees in 2019. And I have been doing a little bit of research and analysis of a snapshot of y'all's email numbers. So trying to find out how many all alders emails come in. I just picked a corresponding month to the month that we had in 2019, the data for all alders emails, non-all alders emails. I've also then asked for city emails. In other words, messages you've received from city domains and external domains. So I'm working on looking at some of that to get a better sense of that so that when we ask these other communities, maybe they have some insight into their volume and we have something to compare it to. So I've been digging into that a little bit as well to kind of try to get a better sense from the data. So that, if that's all right with you, that would be our first thing. I would like to sit down with Isaac and make a plan, and then if you need a committee later, certainly, by all means. But I think we can do some of the legwork here ASAP. Thank you so much.
That sounds great. Thank you, Karen. Alder Govindarajan.
Thank you. I like that idea, Karen. The one thing, again, I will beat this dead horse on, unfortunately, is I do think it continues to be fairly disrespectful to have a long conversation about decreasing potentially the size of council after that referendum where 70, 80% of people voted to keep it the same size. I think other cities across the country do have a smaller amount, yes, but it is better for democracy to have more people. I think that's typically what we hear from our constituents. And obviously for my seat specifically, if we decrease less than 20, it's going to put the student seat at risk. So if we are looking into it, I think fine, but I don't think we should. I think the city position should be that we are going to stick at 20 because that's what the voters have decided 3 years ago. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your opinion. Other discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, we are going to item 6, 92257, debrief on 2025-2026 CCEC initiatives. So first off, we went from every council meeting CCEC to every other, so only once a month. We will have our 4th Common Council discussion briefing next Tuesday, don't forget. And then it will be, so we're looking for feedback on how this body would advise the next leadership. We've had state lobbying report outs to CCEC. We've had 2 of them, I believe, and I think the goal was to have 2 or 3 per year. I can't recall what we had discussed, but somewhere in that realm. The Alder mentoring system, which I would be frank and say has had its pluses and minuses. And any other reflections on the experience of being on CCEC or advice for new CCEC members. So this is sort of a free-for-all discussion on any and all and more. Alder Madison.
I guess I will say I did appreciate the once a month meetings versus every single month for CCEC. And it did feel, at least it seemed like we were getting things done. Like, you can kind of see the progress of things moving forward, like this presentation tonight, for example. I will say, I don't think the mentorship thing was as important or relevant for me because I just pick up the phone and call sometimes previous alders, or I know which staff person to reach out to. So I don't know that it may have been very relevant for others, but I don't think necessarily it was relevant for me, both as a mentor and was I a mentee? I can't even tell you if I was a mentee at all. I do like the presentation styles thus far, with the exception of the one where we were there kind of late. Was that violence prevention maybe? We were there kind of late. But I like the presentation itself. I don't want to be with y'all past a certain amount of time unless it's hanging out to a degree. But I do like the information. It's not that I didn't like the presentation that we did with, was it civil rights? Is it civil rights? It's the area that has like what is it? Translators, the community, is it civil rights?
So that was our training. So that was a training as opposed to a discussion.
Yeah. It's like I understood the concept, but I was hoping that it could have been more of almost like working on something, like working through a problem together, for example. So I like the concept and what was supposed to be delivered, but I think it should have been in a different format, if that makes sense. And then I don't know how much you want to know, but I'll just share one more thing. In the onboarding process, I've always liked that. I'm very nerdy, so I actually love the binders and the printouts, and I flag those things for myself. But I am going to just continue to advocate to say we need a sort of streamlined, cleaned up, tech-related solution that makes it much easier to organize that stuff for us, because that thing, what is it, like the intraweb or whatever? I don't know much about that. I don't even remember that it's there until maybe 2:00 in the morning. So I just really feel like if there was a portal specifically for alders, for example, that had some answers, some quick answers that we can go to versus having to navigate a bunch would be helpful. And the last one I always advocate for is a healthy, nice project management tool, because I like project management. So.
And so can I interrogate you a little bit on that?
Yes.
Is it that you want a project management tool just to use for your own purposes, or you think there needs to be a project management tool for CCEC and the work that CCEC is doing?
I think there needs to be a project management tool for alders in general that has a room or tab or whatever that, I don't know if you ever use, is it Slack? Slack, like Slack channels, something like that, like a project management tool that also has a page or so where you can be, your committees that you also serve on can be embedded somehow. So if this was Slack, I would just have a channel for that. But because it's us, government, we just have a 100,000 page website.
We do have Teams, and I think Teams could be used in that way.
If it can be set, I feel like then we would need some training to make sure we're utilizing it to the best of because I just started using Teams for the chat function or whatever, but I use Trello for project management, but I can't necessarily work with Julia on Trello because it needs to be like open record or whatever, so.
You should be able to use Teams.
In a project management way?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Attorney Haas has this for a reason.
Will it create graphs and stuff for me based on our work, like a project management tool?
I don't know about that.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know anything about project management, but I had a different question for the alder. When you mentioned the orientation, I know council office and agencies every year now do a lot of work to try to make that as effective as we can, and every year there are different suggestions about how to make changes. So you mentioned like FAQ documents or easy access to information. I'm guessing the information is probably there, maybe is
Yep.
hard to locate. So I'm just, if there are specific things that you think we should be doing that would make it more effective for alders, that might be helpful, but we keep changing it every time, it seems like.
Yeah,
And
no.
there never seems to be a sweet spot that we get to that everybody is satisfied with.
I personally don't think the onboarding needs to change much. I think it's accessing the onboarding materials. So for example, I tend to create a bunch of folders, and I have a folder with all my onboarding documents, but sometimes those links are now dead links, for example. And so then I have to, like, if the link doesn't go to the page like it went before or bookmark, then I got to go and hit up staff to help me find what I'm looking for. So, but I don't know the answer. I just know that the way that we access it, I really wish that it functioned more like an app, for example, or easy control where you have all of this stuff for alders on one single site and you can easily search it, for example. So I'm just addicted to my phone, and I like everything to work like my iPhone, admittedly, and like Trello.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to quick remind you where to find this, just so in case people aren't sure, because it is public. It's not on the intranet. So you are able to go, if you go to our main page, the Common Council main page, and right now you just scroll to the very bottom and you find Alder onboarding and you click. It's true that it's difficult to search. That's fair. It is in alphabetical order, hopefully. If it's not, I'll fix it. And you just scroll down in alphabetical order. And for example, we have a number of things. So we have a number of videos, and we have a number of documents that are available here for folks to reference. It is definitely the case that we have additional documents as well. The city is shifting over to a SharePoint structure. So we're working on that as well. This is all going to have to shift at some point, probably to SharePoint, which is going to involve a login, which is going to involve you having to do a login or get permissions, individual permissions would have to be given. So we are going to have to shift it because we can't just have a bunch of PDFs for accessibility reasons. We can't just have a bunch of PDFs just sitting around. So we do have to actually rehouse all of this. But I'm not sure that the tools that are available to us are going to be the kind of tools that you're talking about, unfortunately.
Mario. But you see what I'm saying? Like, we're halftime alders. We don't have, I'm thankful for you all in the office. It helps a lot. But to find information and not being able to find it quick enough probably causes us to have to send more emails to the office. So,
And other
That's okay.
staff.
yeah, and other staff, because it's just like us trying to figure out answers to things. It takes a little bit of time sometimes. Not that I think most of us don't mind spending the time, but to try to work more efficiently when you might be district like 12, for example, who has a lot going on, 17 sometimes is busy. There are districts that are super busy, and then you're trying to find like something embedded in one of those PDFs. It could be a lot. So, but if we had a simple website for alders and an app for that, it might help.
All right, Alder Figueroa Cole.
Well, to add to Alder Madison and Attorney Haas on comments, we do have Office 365 is a fairly new integration. So I think one thing that the training is lacking or the onboarding is lacking is a training on how to use Office 365. For me, it was a natural transition since I'm accustomed to it. So I've been using Teams like as soon as it became available. And yes, Teams has a lot of power, but it's control also. Like you have abilities there to create rooms, to create channels, to create all that stuff. But it's not, like that. I don't have access to those things. There are different controls set up for that. Not to say that we cannot request the controls to be, to have some kind of process for us to be able to communicate better. But I think the SharePoint situation, for example, when that comes up, I mean, every software under Office 365 has an app associated with it. So I think that perhaps some of these experience that you are expressing can be resolved by including technology training to the onboarding tool. I mean, it's just like the blog page, for example. Like we started with some archaic thing that was there before, and then we got transition, and we got a training initially on how to use that, but it was very vague, and I had to go there and research on how to do my pages and how to use all these different perks or different things that they have available for you to use. But I didn't really get a full training of the tool. So I think perhaps we should start with technology training of the tools. I mean, how to use OneDrive, how to share documents via OneDrive, how to use Teams, that kind of thing. I don't think we have a training for that. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Alder Govindarajan.
Thank you. I mean, I can probably come up with a bunch of things on the trainings, but I fairly like them, and I didn't do much about them at CCEC. So the main thing I kind of want to share is about the state lobbying reports that we had. Obviously, that was kind of like my pet project, part of CCEC, but also as a VP here. And I think one thing stepping outside, I mean, I enjoyed the presentations. I think it was fairly helpful for hopefully the alders here. It was for myself, and I know some other alders who aren't on executive committee have shared to me that they enjoyed learning about what's happening at the state as well. But I think taking a zoom out of that, I think it was very helpful for me as a CCEC member this year, because I had a better understanding of what this body is actually supposed to do. And I think for me, that was more so because I was working with Regina and Karen in council leadership of trying to figure out the agenda and what we want to do and all of that. But I think at the start of each CCEC session, it might be beneficial from staff to just get a printout of, hey, here's the ordinances that establish the Common Council Executive Committee. Because I've read that even my first term when I got put on here, but when I was reviewing it heading into this term, that's when I saw, it says right up there, bullet point number 1, it's the executive committee's job to review state legislative matters and provide input to our state lobbyist. Why are we not doing that? And why is the mayor's office doing that? Which was my whole motivation for bringing them into here and having them, like, grilling them with questions and having them inform us about what's happening. So I think a big goal next session I would love to see is making sure CCEC members know what they're here for. Like evaluating our chief of staff. That's a big role within our body that only our body can do. It's not the entire Common Council. So when Karen's contract is up next year, we want to do that fairly. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Wait a second. Who's got a hand up? I see a hand up and I can't see it on here. Oh, Alder McKinney. Where is she? Alder Harrington McKinney. I'm sorry, you're like logged in weirdly.
Oh, hold on.
Can you? Oh, she's an attendee. How do I?
Ask
I got to. I should be able to promote to panelist.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
I can do it. You want me to do it?
Well, I'm trying.
I just promoted
Okay, great.
Barb.
Okay, Alder Harrington McKinney. I don't know if you can hear us, but if you can, you had your hand up. Did you want to speak?
Okay, yes, now, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to kind of follow up what was just said about the executive committee is that we have a lot of presentations that come before the whole body of alders. And so my question is that was there ever a consideration where some of these full presentations could be at the executive committee? It's great that you've slimmed it down from twice a month to once a month, but some of those long presentations that happen at the council level, could they be shifted to the executive committee level? And what was the rationale for bypassing the executive committee and shifting it to full council? I'm complete.
Alder Harrington McKinney, can I ask you a question? Did you mean the council discussions that we've been having? Is that what you mean, or did you mean something else? I just want to make sure I understand.
Okay, let me clarify. Is that formerly, when there was a staff presentation, and this was in the earlier days, is that when there was a staff presentation, the staff came before the executive committee, made the presentation. It was open, and so alders could come in, but then it kind of shifted. And so I'm trying to hear what was the rationale for the shifting. Did that make sense?
It did. I don't. Yeah, go ahead, Karen, please.
I think Alder McKinney, and tell me if I'm off base here. I remember back in the day before we went hybrid or virtual, there was a time, and I think it was about 5:30 to 6 or so between CCEC and council, where you would have informational sessions, council discussion sessions, and that was used that way. I believe. So for a while that wasn't used at all, right? During the pandemic, it kind of disappeared. I think the last one was, in 2019 or 2020 before the pandemic. It was a performance excellence update. They also used to get, just Visit Madison type, Destination Madison, type updates as well. And then they came to council, and then for a while we had them at council, right? And then for this leadership, President Vitiver decided trying the discussion format again, but because she wanted to give space, you correct me if I'm wrong, wanted to give space to discuss and process. I think the half-hour format would have been a challenge. So she decided to try this larger, more expansive format where the council could come and discuss outside of a formal council meeting. So it's not a requirement to come and it's not quorum, but it was recorded and available, but also had more space for discussion and so on. So I believe that's it, but there wasn't, if I'm thinking of what Alder Harrington McKinney is thinking of, there was a half an hour that was used at some points in time to provide an update.
And my understanding is that we have to have about an hour-ish between CCEC and council because of the IT needs in that time. We don't always get quite the full hour, but I think they get real nervous if we get less than 30 minutes, that's for sure. But that's part of the feedback I think that we want to hear is how do people want to talk about issues that are outside of a council agenda, but that we don't obviously violate open records or open meetings law, that we can have those conversations in an open space. And that was the goal of the council discussions, but that's what we want to have feedback on so that the next leadership can decide how they wish to move forward. So, go ahead.
And I think, and it would be interesting to hear what you think, Alder Harrington McKinney. I guess, there is another option. I think it was considered. Again, it's pretty time limited. Just to get your thoughts on, for example, if we had a monthly CCEC, and then on the off day, so for example, we have CCEC tonight, and then on the 24th, we would have something else. And that something else could be a council discussion from 4:30 to 5:30 or so, 6 if we push it. If it would be more convenient for folks, if it could be an issue, if you feel like it's an issue also of convenience, like more folks are already, I'm not sure, because that would be a 4:30 start, and with the current plan that President Vitiver used, we did a 6 o'clock start to try to give folks. So those are the sorts of things I'd love to hear your thoughts on, having participated in several of those. I'd like to hear.
Thank you for the discussion and the opportunity for the open discussion. I really appreciate that. I'm complete.
Thank you. All right, any other comments on CCEC? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the council office updates.
All right. Well, good news. I have some information about resources in this. I'm happy. I try to listen. I try to listen to everyone. I know I'm mouthy, but I listen. All right. So we have a couple of out of office. I did get some late breaking potential part-time out of office for the last week of March for Liz. It's okay. I didn't get that on there though. I put a couple of things of my vacations. I know they're further out, but I just want everyone to know, because we might not be back until sometime in May, so I just want to flag that. So there's, I wanted to highlight, so I don't know if you noticed, but in her newsletter about the all expense accounts, Liz has added a section, and she and I are going to be working on trying to push out more about the resources that are available to you to help you familiarize yourself, refamiliarize yourself, and so on. To help to manage, like you said, Alder Madison, it's hard when it's not searchable or when there's a lot, and what do you do with all that? So we are going to be trying to find a way to keep bringing it to the fore to help you as we figure out better solutions. So the one that I'd like to flag for you today is finding answers to constituent questions. So we have created a handout with our advice on how to find answers to constituent questions. That's linked here. I believe it's also on that page that I showed you. And we've also provided a handout on how to find city staff contact info, because I know sometimes that you're not really sure. Once you know who you know the name of the person, but now where do I go, right? And of course, I want you all to, and I sincerely mean this from the bottom of my heart, please never hesitate to email me, forward me a question, ping me on Teams, call me. I am always happy because I know that sometimes folks ask unique questions, and other times you've maybe not seen it before, but Debbie has, or I'm trying to get some institutional knowledge from her too. So if you ping me and I'm not sure, I'm going to check with her, and then I get a little bit of training, and institutional knowledge transfer while I'm also trying to figure it out for you. So please never hesitate. I mean that. I mean that with all of my heart and soul. I want you to feel like, I want to help you with all of this. All right. So I love it when folks do, and sometimes they're really interesting. So when you CC me, when you follow up, I learn even more. So I am all for it. And, as you've pointed out, this is a very DIY job. And that can be really challenging. It can be really challenging. And so, some folks are very independent, I have to say. So some folks would rather not ask. They'd rather just figure it out with resources. And other folks, so I just want to encourage you, we have everything. We have resources, we have, and you have us and me in particular. So please, take a look at those. Oh, and as you're looking through resources, as we're highlighting them, if you have additional questions, I'd like to know. So just go ahead and send me a message. Oh, hey, I was looking through the constituent questions thing and I was confused about this, or I don't know what that is, or why is that link broken, or, whatever you need to tell me, please tell me and we will take that into account. Speaking of that, the tech conversation, I would like to know, oh no, I'll get there, just kidding. There's also something about tech in here. I was excited, I nailed it this time. All right, so a couple updates I'm gonna give you some project updates. Alder onboarding, offboarding. Well, as you know, we've got a small cohort coming in, and I've decided to take an individual approach with them. I talked to some agency heads, and we were sort of brainstorming on a good way to do it. So I will be what I'll be doing is making introduction, email and connections with the agencies and adding in links and that sort of thing so that to your point again, they don't have to go look through the big page. They can, here's an email connecting you with building inspection. Here are the relevant folks. Here are the relevant documents. Here I am if you need any help facilitating that. And going and giving that a try this year for the small number of folks who are coming in. That will change with the number of incoming folks. I just have a couple reminders here. Just a reminder, so leadership elections is going to be in person. And again, we're going to try to do it with paper ballots again this year. So if you have some of a conflict, please reach out to me. And we'll have an alternative for you, but yeah. Sorry, did you want to say something? Oh, okay. And here, speaking of technology, please bring your city laptop with you on April 21st so that we can check it out, load it, hook it up to the network, make sure it's got all its updates, make sure it's working. If it's not working, we want to deal with it. And I have a reminder, to your point about technology, that we have several useful M365 tools available to you through your district account, and that including OneDrive, Teams, Microsoft Lists, which is one of my favorites as well. And you can explore that with your city device. You can also explore that by logging in through office.com on the web. You're right. The folks who reminded me that you do definitely have apps for each of the, it was Alder Figueroa Cole. There are apps for each of the there's an M365 app, and then there's sort of individual apps. I actually use them on my phone as well. So that hopefully will also be available to you. I would like to hear from you if you are interested in training with IT on a specific, if it's a OneDrive training, if it's a Teams, whatever you want, let me know who you are that really want this. The city does offer a OneDrive training, and I know Liz highlights it in her newsletter. I don't know if any alder has taken her up on that. But if you'd like a more customized training, please let me know, because I can talk to IT about whether or not they can they can build. We have built some options in the past for folks. We have not gotten a lot of attendance. So I would really like to get a sense of who is really, really looking for this, who would really like to have this, and then I can build something for you. Also, I believe for the independent folks, theoffice.com, there's a lot of learning modules in there. And I'll send this resource out to you. IT also has what are called knowledge bank articles on a number of these apps. And I will curate some of that for you as well and put it together so that if you're an independent person who doesn't want to, be in a training with IT, but you still want to learn, I will curate some of those for you so you don't have to go find them. And hopefully that will help you as well. So, and then, I have some reminders for the outgoing folks, but that's okay. I'll just move on. And then I wanted to let you know, so for some other projects, in addition to all that, the 2026 Alder Retreat Planning is underway. President Vitiver did have some recommendations, and they actually dovetail with what Alder Madison had said about wanting something a little different in terms of equity training. So we're working on that. Please monitor your inboxes for a doodle because I'm going to be looking for summertime. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about the BCC steering group, which I chair, and that we are, again, still working on a very large project to review, assess, and revise the BCC staff training materials. We're working with Kara Kratowitz and Andy Hopkins. Attorney Haas is quite involved in this as well. And we should be having some deliverables coming out yet this year. End of Q2, I believe, is what we were hoping for, with additional deliverables to come through. So I will continue to let you know once we get deliverables. It's actually quite a lot of work because there's no surprise at all to any of you, tons of information in all kinds of forms and fashion and all kinds of different stages of update that needs to be dealt with and made sense of and then improved. So just wanted to let you know that we're doing that. So that's what I have. Thank you so much. If anyone has questions.
Any questions for Karen? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 88519, future agenda items. These will roll on to the next term, or will they not?
I never know what to do. I think it's really your pleasure.
Okay, they will be available
Yes.
to the next leadership to determine whether they wish to take them up, and it is a constant call for future agenda items. So,
Yes.
how about that?
That sounds wonderful. They're in Legistar.
They're in Legislature. Great. All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. Any
Who was that?
MJR
Okay.
and
Okay.
Badri. Okay. I'm anticipating no discussion. Is there any objection to a unanimous vote in favor of adjournment? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Just good. Now they have a